Well, good morning, everyone, and good morning, my special guest, my cousin, Jason Barry-Smith. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I was going to say my most famous cousin, but I thought I'd better be careful.
I don't know whether fame's not the thing. I mean, I guess I'm infamous in some ways, I guess.
No, that's fine. Jason, fantastic to have you here with us today, and you've had great success in your life. You're a baritone, and you're very successful at that. And I've actually looked you up on Wikipedia yesterday.
Wow. That's not my work. That's the work of somebody else. But it's up to date, which is good.
You've checked it out to make sure that.
I have to make sure. The photo, though, is terrible. So don't look at it.
No, that's fine. Jason, one of the difficult questions, I'm going to come back to that if I may. But from an early age, you became very successful in singing, and you've been overseas. You've been to Germany, London, Italy, Rome. Well, obviously Rome is in Italy. So, but do you want to just talk about how this all started for you, your path to success?
Well, my path to really, I guess, the sort of, it's interesting that you should use the word success, because success has always been something that I have questioned. It's been something that I've always wondered about. And I guess my start in life was that I had parents who loved music, and I came into a family that loved music, and for which music was a way of connecting, and also a way of feeling things that were bigger than the things that sometimes it was easy to talk about, and also having my mum's cousin, your mum's cousin as well, being Betty Beath, who is a composer, a very well established and fantastic Australian composer, not as well known as some others. So, and also we had another cousin called Lorna Shackleton, who was a piano teacher and violin teacher. And I guess I started on the violin and the piano with Lorna, and just realized after a while that although I could play kind of nicely on both of those, the thing that really allowed me to connect with other people, and I felt allowed me to express what was inside me the best, was through singing, because my voice seemed to have some sort of appeal, and words for me are very important. And so being able to be allowed by the people who were around me to continue doing that through choirs, and then through my study at high school with high school music, and then going to the conservatorium and studying there, that sort of set me up very, very well. And another really big part of it was the Queensland Youth Choir, which I was a member of. I was a member of the choirs before then, from about 14 on. So I had this sort of classical training, as well as with the Queensland Youth Choir, a much more popular music-based training as well. And so I had sort of a wide, I would say, Catholic tastes in music, but also a wide understanding of what was needed to be achieved. And then it was just sort of finding ways in which initially I was able to focus what it was that I needed to learn. But then since I did all of the study, which, as you say, I started in Munich, I had an exchange year there, and at the Hochschule für Musik und Theaterkunst, theatre art, which was amazing. It was a really amazing thing to do when I was 19, going into 20. And it was also the time that was the moment when the wall came down. When I was there was a month after the wall came down. So it was an amazing time of change. It was the first time I'd lived away from home. There were amazing other things happening in the world. And I guess that helps establish you in understanding who it is that you are.
No, and you had a great time. You went from Germany on to London and then on to Italy. Is that right? As part of
that's right. I won another couple of competitions, and those allowed me to get some funding to go to Italy, and then to, to Rome firstly. I did an exchange year as a young artist with the Rome Opera, which was amazing. And I also did some study in London with a really fantastic expatriate Australian singing teacher called Janice Chapman. And that was really helpful in establishing my vocal technique. And those times, again, being ensconced in an amazing other cultures, being able to understand what it's like to live with people who are different to you. Even though, I mean, in London, it's not terribly different. But in Italy, it's very different. In Germany, it's quite different. But Italian culture, and particularly Roman culture, is very different. And so being able to do that was great. And again, at the same time as this was happening, when I won that first competition, which was called the Australian Singing Competition, the Marianne Marty Prize.
I saw that on your what's Wikipedia or whatever. I saw that there, and I thought I didn't even know about that prize that you'd won.
It's a very prestigious prize, and has been won by many people who have had different types of success to me. And so it was wonderful. And so during a year after I won it, I didn't actually take it up straight away. I then did some more work, but in music theatre. So in those wonderful Gilbert and Sullivan shows with Simon Gallagher and John English that toured around Australia and New Zealand, I spent about 5 years working with those guys, and that was amazing at establishing not only my technique, but also my understanding of how to work with other people. Because I guess one of the other things we should say is that I don't just sing. I also work as a chorus master, a choir master, and I teach singing as well. And so that time really established me in being able to know what I was doing. And then I went and did my further studies as a young artist in Rome, and then doing some further study in London, and then came back home and have lived here for basically ever since, but done a lot of work around Australia, around New Zealand, in Southeast Asia, up to Japan. But kept Brisbane as my home for lots of reasons, including my wonderful sister Helene, to be around to help her. She has an intellectual disability, and so it was really helpful for me to be nearby for Mum and Dad, and also now that Dad is no longer with us, to help with she and Mum as well.
Yeah, and you are an absolutely fantastic brother, Jason, to Helene, and she is so lucky to have you. And as your mum's getting older now, it's great that you're around to make sure that Helene's okay as well. You're a really good human being, Jason.
Oh, bless your heart, Mark.
I just want to say that to you. So well done.
Well, I tell you what, it's a family trait, I think, through the Hamiltons and the Westcotts and the Smiths, and it's an amazing family to be part of, and to know that everyone is there and being supportive. And I have to say that particularly becoming an artist of any sort, you need to know that you have people around you who have your back. And I've been really lucky because I've been able to establish lots of strands, I guess, to what my career is. And that's, I guess, where my success has come from, is that I haven't just put every egg into one basket. And boy, has that been a helpful thing during this COVID crisis.
During COVID, that's right. I'll come back to the COVID thing if I might, Jason, but I just wanted to give a shout out because you came down and had lunch with us yesterday, and so a shout out to Mum, right?
Absolutely, Auntie Mary. Much love to you. It was so beautiful to see you yesterday, and to see you and Mum together as well. We don't get together that often, unfortunately.
No, but it was great to catch up. Now, you came back and now you met Lisa, your wife. You worked together, did you?
We
singing.
did.
She's very good as well. So.
Oh, she's an amazing singer. She's a fantastic performer. She had studied acting at Kelvin Grove down here in Brisbane. She's originally from Bundaberg, and she was studying there. And she'd also become a part of a cabaret group that I was also part of. And I was away in Germany when she first joined, and people kept saying, "Oh, Jason Smith," as I was at that time. Jason Smith, you remember when he sang that? And Lisa's going, "Oh my God, this guy can't be like this. Okay, it can't be this."
It can't be that
anyway,
good,
when I came back, apparently I was okay. So we started going up, and that's 30 years ago this year, and we've been married for 25 years. And as we were discussing yesterday, she's an extraordinary human being. She started as an actor, became a singer, went into music theatre for quite a while, also did a lot of producing in television, but now has become an author and is an internationally acclaimed author, with her books in 11 or 12 languages around the world. So, I mean, she is an extraordinary, and we are very, very different types of people, as we were talking about yesterday at lunch. Totally different types of people, but I think that it's worked out really well for us both.
Well, you guys have done very well. You've got two wonderful boys to be very proud of. And I loved yesterday when we were sitting around at lunchtime. All of a sudden, your boys up the end of the table just started harmonising together, and I was like, wow, these guys
I
are
know.
talented, aren't they?
Isn't it a glorious thing, particularly with young men? I mean, with young women, possibly less unusual, but with young men particularly, to just get up and sing. I was always, right from when I was young, I was always amazed that a lot of young men didn't hear other men singing, you know, in their life, in their family. And because my dad had always sung, my granddad sang, you know, it was always there. You know, for our boys, it was lovely. And Kai, our younger boy, had his girlfriend there, and she was harmonising along as well. So
Absolutely,
it was really beautiful.
Well, one of the interesting things, Jason, was that in your family, the gene obviously passed down. Now, in my family, Mum was a great singer as well. She played the piano beautifully. She taught people how to play the piano. In fact, there's a lady out at Sanctuary Cove that I often run into here on the Gold Coast that is an ex-student of Mum's from Hughenden. And she taught her, I'm not sure if she taught her in Hughenden, but maybe it was. Yes, it was in Hughenden. And yet, Marion and I, sitting around the table yesterday, were looking for where the gene landed in for the four of us, and I don't think it did. Mum didn't get to pass it down.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a doer. And when I'm teaching people, I regularly, but you know, when it comes to the arts, you don't have to be a doer. But the thing is, you guys have a great understanding of the appreciation of the arts, and that's a really important thing. And this is something I say to students quite regularly, and I mean, not just private students, but also the people that I work with statewide. You know, that you don't have to do this for a living, because you know, let's be honest, if you're going to do this for a living, there can be nothing else that has your passion, because otherwise it's just too hard. But for the rest of us, it's about enjoying it. If you want to do it, great, but also to be able to enjoy it at a deeper level, with an understanding which is greater, and that's something that will last with us all through all of our lives.
I was actually hoping Mum would get up and show us her singing prowess yesterday, but we couldn't coax her into that. So.
It was a pity.
Next to you, Jason.
It's terrible. But my mum has been recently. I've just put some things on a thumb drive to put into her little stereo and put on. And as soon as what's it called? Salad Days, a wonderful musical from sort of mid-20th century. As soon as it comes on, she starts singing the songs, remembers every word. Sometimes she can't remember her name some days, but you know, she remembers every word of these songs. And it's so beautiful to hear.
Well, absolutely. It was lovely to see that both our mums there together yesterday, sisters. So it was lovely. But one of the other things that I wanted to ask you about, Jason, is you get out west a lot. And I'd like you, please, to just talk about, and obviously it's a Queensland only thing, and unfortunately these days I guess we can travel a bit, but with COVID, and I won't go too far into COVID yet, but that's really curtailed what you've done this year in rural areas of Queensland. But on a usual basis, can you just explain what you take out west? You know, how many people turn up, what sort of places you go to, because you're really like the touring show in all the sort of dusty corners of Queensland, aren't you?
Well, we do, but we do lots of different things. So with Opera Queensland, and Opera Queensland's sort of been my home company since, gosh, for 26 years now. And so I've worked with them in many ways, and the thing that I've probably found the most fulfilling has been being part of their community and learning projects, which is run by somebody called Mark Taylor, who's extraordinary, because he's a good Brisbane boy, but he ran schools out in far West Queensland, Windora. You know, he was way out there. And so he understands what it is like to be out there and working with people and helping communities come together and build, and understands how the arts can do that. So with Opera Queensland, there are sort of 3 tiers of what we do. We will tour a large-scale production with all of the sets and the costumes and the soloists, and then we'll work with local group of singers which we will audition and we'll help rehearse, and they'll become the chorus for the evening that we're performing in their region. And that's usually most of the centres up the coast, but we've gone as far west as Mount Isa with that sort of a project. They're pretty amazing. They're fabulous. Yeah. Then we have a sort of a second tier, which is a touring smaller production, which has...
Sorry, Jason, just before you go into that. So the first tier you were talking about, you do what, like Mackay, Rockhampton, Townsville?
Yeah, well, it's usually Gold Coast, Toowoomba, Maryborough, Gladstone, Mackay, Townsville, Cairns, sometimes Mount Isa. But there, and so that's sort of what we'll do that every second year. This year was supposed to be one of those. Didn't happen. But we did something else instead. We did a wonderful online project, which is actually Opera Queensland's going to put up the fruits of that this week. So that's very exciting. So there's been an amazing chorus project that's happened online, which I was part of helping prepare as well. And then the sort of second tier, we travel to everywhere, but with a smaller sized production, usually with 6 performers in total and a couple of people who are looking after the technical aspects of it. Smaller sets, but always sets and costumes, and a show that is more highlights from opera and things like that. The last one we did was last year, and we did an extraordinary tour way out west and everywhere. Windora. We went to Windora. It was amazing. And Longreach, and some of them were outdoor performances, some of them were indoor, and people loved it. It was called Songs. Isn't that terrible? I've forgotten the name. It'll come back to me in a moment.
It'll come back to me. Well, while you're thinking of that, can you talk more about which towns you went to? So I love hearing that you went to Windora, for example.
Absolutely, we went to Windora. Think about the sorts of places that we go to are like Hughenden, Barcaldine, Windora, Emerald, Roma. Oh my gosh, everywhere. I mean, but not along the coast usually during this time, because they get lots of love during those other years. So this will happen in the in-between years, between those large big projects, and I'm almost always involved in both of those projects because, I mean, I've been lucky through the family that I've grown up in. My dad was from Barcaldine, and you guys were all based in Hughenden, and also I've got other parts of the family and other little bits and pieces in other places as well. We sort of have connections everywhere, and so I sort of get how people from the country like to work, and it's no different to what it's like in the city. But the thing is, a lot of my colleagues haven't had the experience of working with people in the country as well. What's really amazing about going to Mount Isa is there's a certain, dare I say it, distrust of people from outside, because Mount Isa is always used as a box to tick by politicians. And so when you go in there, they just want to know that you're doing it for the right reasons. And as soon as you come in there and say, well, actually, we're giving something to the community to help build, they love it. Because that's really what we're doing. I guess I realized a long time ago that people are being allowed to have a voice, literally and figuratively, being able to say what it is that they feel and express what they've got inside, not just by themselves, but also in groups, so that you start to form your own tribe, I guess it is, where you start to find where it is that you fit in. It's probably the most important job that I can ever do. And even being a performer, I understand that the people who are my audience are a tribe as well. So getting those people to feel like being an audience member for, I guess, more classical music is not something that's weird. It's actually a really easily accessible and fun thing to do. So, those things are lovely as well. Songs to Die For was the name of the tour.
I knew you'd get it.
Another file.
You had to send the elevator down. That's what it was.
But it was kind of lovely because I was just talking with Mark before we came on, and we were talking about the fact my dad passed away a couple of years ago, and I've been talking about, I've been trying to open up the conversation with people about, talking about mortality, because we're terrible at talking about it in general, in Western culture. it's
Sure.
terrible. And this was actually a show that, in a kind of fun way, opened up conversations about it, looking at the fun aspects of stupid deaths in opera, but then also looking at the beauty of how to celebrate a person's life and the kind of sad things, but just it was a really lovely show. So I guess that's the second tier, and then the third tier that Opera Queensland works
there's
on.
more.
But wait, there's more. Is that we work with local regions, regional councils. We had an amazing project that we did. Gosh, I think it was the end of last year too, very full end of last year, where we did a thing called Composed in Queensland and worked with 5 regional councils around the sort of central west to work with high school and primary school students from those regions. We had meetings like this with all of the kids from a class, and we'd ask them questions like, what's it like to live in your town? What are the things that you see around the place? What do you do in the afternoons? All of these sorts of questions about finding what it is that makes their region special to them. And then we got the wonderful Sarah Storer and Megan Washington, who are amazing singer-songwriters, to write songs based on the words that these kids had given us. And then we taught those songs to these wonderful kids. And not only during that time were we teaching them, but I was also teaching them, and the team were teaching them stagecraft and how to sing a bit better, how to feel more comfortable when you're singing in front of other people, because that's something that they don't get to do as often as we do down here. And then we performed all of these songs, plus some other bits and pieces, at the Qantas Founders Museum. And it was a most wonderful concert. So all of those communities came to Longreach to do that. And then all of the Opera Queensland had this live streaming. This was before we had live streaming. And we had this live stream to the studio there for all of the people who had helped fund it, but also friends of Opera Queensland. And I don't think there was a dry eye in the house. It was an extraordinary project, and we do lots of things like that. We also touring kids shows in conjunction with the wonderful Shake and Stir Theatre Company, who are amazing, but we do things that are based on opera as well with them. They're doing, I think it's called The Frog Prince is coming up next year, which is going to be their tour. So, yeah, really exciting stuff.
That is fantastic, Jason. I just love the fact that you take all this talent, capability, and rawness out to rural areas of Queensland, certainly, and all the people in those areas can come together and appreciate stuff which they're normally just not going to have any opportunity to get to Brisbane necessarily and see shows and so on. So it's a great thing that you're doing.
Oh, well, we're very pleased to be able to do it. I mean, it is Opera Queensland after all. It's not Opera Southeast Queensland.
No, that's right. Now, there's a couple of questions I want to ask, and one is, what's the most important? No, I'm not going to say the most important. Which role have you played that you are the most proud of? That was like your Everest at this point. I know there's more to come.
I'm going to be cheeky and say father, but I know that that's not the answer that you want. I think that has been probably the greatest role that I've ever been part of. But when we're talking about roles that I've done on stage, I'm joking.
That's where I was coming from.
I'm shocked. There are 2 that really, really, totally touched me, and one of them is Figaro in The Barber of Seville, and I have performed him more than any of my other roles put together, actually. And the reason why he's totally a show-off, I guess in my own way I'm a show-off as well, but the thing is that the reason that he's a show-off is because he has so much energy to give, and he's trying to help everyone who's around him, even though sometimes he fails. He's always trying to help people, and that for me has always resonated. Because I am a factotum. I have lots of strings to my bow. A factotum is just a person who can do lots and lots of different things, and does. And the other role that totally resonated with me, and I was really super lucky to do this role, and it's not a very well-known role. It's Billy Budd in an opera by Benjamin Britten, which is called Billy Budd as well. And it was the Australian premiere back in 1993, and I got to play, I was the first Australian Billy Budd. And it was done for the Brisbane Festival, I think it was, in combination with the Queensland Conservatorium of Music. And I had just graduated, as had another one of the guys in the cast. And we were brought back to do it. And it's an extraordinary opera about good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
And Billy is the good character, and he is, I guess, he's misused by a person who just wants to be in control. And that
a control freak, you mean?
So, well, not a control freak, no, but he's a person who just sees in. I see what you're doing.
Yeah, you knew I was coming.
But the thing is, this person he only sees the darkness in life, and Billy can only see the light in life. And that's something that resonates with me, because I am a person who will tend to be the person who sees the lightness in life. But I also know the danger of that as well. I'm not just a person who sees lightness, I'm also a realist at the same time. But there's no reason to switch off your light because other people don't understand.
That's absolutely right.
I think that was something that was particularly important for me to learn when I was 23 years old. And it stuck with me. I'm 50 now, so I mean, it stuck with me a very, very long time. It was also glorious music to sing. And the man who was directing us in that show had actually sung the role of Billy Budd with Benjamin Britten conducting it. So it was this incredible passing on of the love of this piece. It was really special.
That is fantastic. Now, I mentioned to you yesterday, Jason, when we were together, I mentioned that I'd originally started Tea and Scones as a way when COVID hit, as a way to start the week with positivity, energy, enthusiasm, a great outlook, and also to talk about gratitude and things like that. And we've just got a couple of minutes to go, but I'm just going to ask you, do you have any routines in regard to meditation or practicing gratitude and so on that you use? If you want to just take a minute to talk about those.
Absolutely. Gratitude is something that I try to live all of the time. It's not necessarily something that I spend a little bit of time on every day. Every time a person walks in through this studio door to come and have a singing lesson, I basically, I thank them, but also thank everything that allows that to happen, because that sort of connection with another human being, I think, is the thing that I probably do best and I get the most out of. I do meditate. I do spend time doing yoga, probably less of the yoga recently, but I've taken to doing very extensive walks. We have just 5 minutes down the road, the Samford Conservation Park, which has these fantastic long bushwalks, and I will walk for at least 10 kilometers a morning. I didn't this morning because we had some other stuff to do. But that's my way of reconnecting and having some time for myself. And yeah, I've always found that gratitude is the thing that allows me to keep grounded, and that ultimately allows me to feel joy. And when I feel joyous, then I'm able to pass that on. It's something that I talk regularly with students about, and that is, you've got to look after the stuff on the inside before you can actually start pouring it out to other people. And I'm really lucky that, again, I sort of got this when I was quite young, and it's been, as I've gotten better at pouring the stuff out, there are times when I catch myself getting a bit depleted, and then I make sure that I start to reinvest in my own energy again.
Yeah, very well said, Jason, and yeah, very well, great advice too. I promised we'd touch on COVID just very quickly, and it's really I'm always fascinated by how lockdowns and what's happened with COVID and restrictions that have been placed on us all affects different people. Everyone has a different story, and luckily you have a number of strings to your bow. So how did you that's right, how did it affect you this year, and how did you get through?
Well, it affected me by basically 5 very large contracts, which were, one of them was making a recording over in London, one of them was directing an opera for State Opera of South Australia, Another one was doing a huge 90th birthday concert for Stephen Sondheim. I mean, these huge things. I mean, this was going to be an extraordinary year in what has been quite an amazing life in the arts. They all just disappeared. But I was really lucky because I do have a very strong teaching studio, teaching base, and I always keep connected to that, because I found there was a time when I disconnected with that, and I found that I was not happy when I wasn't teaching. So I was able to work with those guys online. Opera Queensland was brilliant in getting on board straight away and creating something which only stopped last week, called An Aria a Day, which was a video of an opera singer performing a piece. It didn't need to be an aria, it could be a song, whatever, from around the world. It was just 5 minutes, which happened at 6 o'clock every night for 5 months. Every night, Opera Queensland had one of those. And I was the second person to be asked to do one of those pieces. And I was also in the final 2 weeks as well. Because Lisa, my wife, and I wrote a piece about being a singer during COVID-19, which was a bit lighthearted, which was kind of nice, because there'd been a lot of emotional stuff happening during that time. And then I also did a lot of online community work as well during that, with Opera Queensland and other groups as well, rehearsing. But it's been just so wonderful to see Queensland starting to reopen and starting to do things. I had a 75 voice choir 2 weeks ago. I worked with high school kids, but we also had to be socially distanced. So we were on a basketball court at State High, rehearsing with these 75 kids. They were amazing. And then they couldn't do a live performance, that had to be recorded, and I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing that as well. So I've been really, really lucky, and I've also done some composing during the time as well. But it's also given me time to work on technique, and teaching online was fascinating. I learned a lot about teaching, and there were certain things you could hear online that you don't necessarily hear as easily when you're in the same room as the person. So it's lots of swings and roundabouts, and I've learned a lot more about technology. Oh my God.
That's right. I think everyone knows how to use Zoom now, that's for sure.
Totally.
And all different types of
products are available.
Oh, that's right, absolutely, including StreamYard.
Exactly.
Jason, look, our time is up. I could talk to you for hours, as we did yesterday, especially if we're eating Lisa's cupcakes while we were chatting. That would make it
absolutely.
That's why I did go for a 6K walk this morning after the cupcakes Lisa made. So please thank her for that. Jason, look, thanks for your time today. Really, really appreciate. Very proud of you as one of my cousins to the work that you've done, the achievements you've made, and I know there's so much more to come, Jason. So thanks for all of us that you've given pleasure to along the way, in regard to those that have been able to go and see you in concert, the people out west that you've been able to provide joy for, and so on. So thanks for that, and look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks for your contribution today.
Such a pleasure, Mark. Thank you so much.